Hello and welcome. This course will provide an overview of the N-400 form and the requirements for naturalization. We will go through and discuss how to complete each part of the N-400 form. Because this video might be a bit long, I will have all the time breaks for each part listed below, so you can always just skip ahead to the part you need. Let's begin with an overview. The N-400 is a USCIS form used to apply for naturalization. It is a legal document that requires truthful answers under penalty of perjury. Very important. A misrepresentation on the form can result not only in the denial of the application, but can also bar you from reapplying for 5 years. Therefore, it is crucial that the N-400 reflect correct information. Consistency is also important. The N-400 will be compared to other forms previously submitted to USCIS. During the naturalization process, USCIS can identify applicants who are deportable and place them in removal proceedings. So I urge you here again to be careful and truthful on your form. An applicant that has ever been arrested or convicted of a crime needs to consult with an immigration attorney or a BIA accredited representative before applying for naturalization to ensure that it is safe to apply. Again, because something might be used against you, if you have something in your record, any questionable act or circumstance in your record, please check to be sure it's even safe to apply. Okay? Very important there. All right. I will put all the links for the accredited organizations and help you find someone if you need help. That will be in the links below. All right. So let's continue. The most current form of the N-400 is 20 pages long and can be found at uscis.gov/N-400. Okay, again, please remember the .gov. They have so many .com and .org, sites that are not really legitimate. You need to use that uscis.gov to get the proper, most current form, fees, things like that. Remember, the form is free, and we will look at the most current version of the form in this video. Currently, that is the December 23rd, 2016 version. You can see there at the bottom the dates. Always check the website for the most current version of the form and the correct filing fee. Right? You can see those areas where you would see where the expiration date is, where the most current form is. But if you get it from the website, you are good. Okay? All right. See, USCIS prefers that you complete the form on a computer or now online. You can also fill it out by hand, though, using black ink, and be very neat. However, please avoid highlighting, crossing out, or writing outside the boxes provided. It's all going to be scanned in, so don't use correction tape or fluid on the form, anything that's going to mess up that computer scanning, because they will just delay everything for you. Okay. If more space is needed for any of the answers, attach an additional sheet of paper labeled with your name, your A number, the application page number, the application part number, and the item number. Okay, make sure each additional page has that information on it. Answer all questions fully and accurately. If a question does not apply to you, type or print NA unless otherwise directed. NA means not applicable, or it does not apply to you. So you just write N/A there. All right, and if your answer to a question which requires a numeric response is 0 or none, like How many children do you have, or how many times have you been married? If your answer is none or zero, go ahead and type or print the word none unless otherwise directed. All right, let's go on. The Form N-400 eligibility. In order to apply, you must meet eight general legal requirements. They include age, permanent residence, continuous residence, physical presence, jurisdiction, English and civics tests, good moral character, and attachment to the Constitution. Now I have 2 videos explaining each of these requirements in full detail. I will put the links to those below, so if you are worried about your eligibility, you can go quick through those videos and confirm that you are even eligible. All right, now let's get started with the actual form. Okay, part 1 of the Form N-400, information about your eligibility. In this section, USCIS wants to know how you are eligible for naturalization. Check only one box here. Most applicants apply based on 5 years of LPR status or 3 years of LPR status if you are married to a U.S. citizen. You can apply 90 days before reaching these dates. Please also fill in your A number on each page of the application. Part 2, information about you. For number 1, provide your current legal name. Your legal name is the one that is on your birth certificate, unless you've changed your name legally through a marriage or court order. Remember, that had to be a legal name change, and then is now your current legal name. That is your current legal name. For number 2, write your name exactly as it appears on your green card. Okay, even if it is spelled wrong, go ahead and write whatever is there on your card. For number 3, provide other names used since birth, such as the maiden name used before marriage and any nicknames that you may have had and used, or aliases that you may have had and used. Again, write NA if no other names were used. Again, NA means that if something does not apply to you or is not applicable, put that NA there. All right. For number 4, you have the option to legally change your name. The new name will appear on the naturalization certificate after it has been approved by the court. You do not need to request a name change if you already had your name changed legally through a court order, like after you got married or divorced, okay? That you don't have to worry about that. All right. Okay, next, provide your social security number, your online account number, if you have one, your gender, your date of birth, the date you became a lawful permanent resident. Please use the date here, the date you became a lawful permanent resident. It's the one on your green card. Okay. Provide the name of your country of birth. If the name has changed, write the name of the country at the time of your birth. And then for number 11, provide your current country of citizenship or nationality. Okay. More information about you for number 2. Question number 12 asks if you qualify for a waiver of the English or civics testing requirements due to a disability or impairment that prevents you from learning the information for the test. If the answer is yes here, submit Form N-648 with your application. And I'll put a link below for USCIS accredited medical professionals that can help with this form. Question 13, so that's question 12. Question 13 here asks if you qualify for an automatic exemption from the English test based on age and long-term residence. If you answer yes here, you will still need to take the civics test in the language of your choice. The civics test is an oral test, so you won't need to read or write here. All right. Accommodations, Part 3. Accommodations for individuals with disabilities and or impairments. The section asks if you are requesting an accommodation for a disability or impairment. Check yes or no, and then select the box or boxes that apply. To please specify what accommodation is needed. You want to make a specific request for your accommodation. Okay. All right, Part 4, information to contact you. Provide all contact information here. If you don't have some information, please write NA in the space. Again, please write NA in the space if you don't have a work phone number or a daytime telephone number, something like that, or email. Just write NA. Fill that whole part out completely, please. Part 5, information about your residence. Here, provide information about where you have lived for the last 5 years, including the address and dates of residence. List your current residence first, then work backwards. Provide a physical address. Do not give a P.O. box in 1A unless that is your only address. Okay, so it's important for that 1A to have a physical address, okay, with a few exceptions. Right? Now, here's your current mailing address. Here in 1B, provide your mailing address after your physical address if it is different. Your mailing address can be a secure address like a P.O. box if your physical home address is not secure. For letters C and on, provide all your residences for the last 5 years or 3 years if based on marriage. Again, remember to work backward from your current address and going back in time. If you need more space, attach an additional sheet of paper labeled with your name, A number, application page number, application part number, and item number. Now, part 6. That's right, we're moving on. Part 6, information about your parents. Provide information about any parent that is a U.S. citizen, and if your parents were married before your 18th birthday. If neither one of your parents is a U.S. citizen, then you could skip this part and go to part 7. For a U.S. citizen parent, provide the requested information. If one or both your parents are citizens, especially if they became citizens or they were citizens before you were 18 years old, you may already be a citizen. This is one of the biggest mistakes people make. They're already citizens when they apply. So you want to double check that before you go ahead and apply. You will need to check in with an immigration representative to check your status. Okay, keep that in mind. Part 7, biographic information. Provide information about your appearance for the USCIS criminal record search. The criminal record search is used to evaluate your eligibility for naturalization. Put all that there. Part 8, information about your employment and schools you attended. Here, provide information about where you have worked or attended school for the past 5 years. Again, start with the current employer or school and work backwards. Provide the employer or school's name, address, dates, and your occupation. Be sure to account for the full 5-year period required. This part, as well as the residence part, is used by USCIS to make sure you have met the continuous residence requirement. You can write self-employed if self-employed, unemployed with the dates of your unemployment, or retired if retired. Again, if more space is needed, attach an additional sheet of paper labeled with your name, a number, application page number, application part number, and item number. Part 9, time outside the United States. Note that this includes time spent in Canada and Mexico. Here, USCIS is checking to be sure you meet the continuous residence and physical presence requirements. Any trips outside the U.S. in the last 5 years that lasted 6 months or longer should be evaluated for a possible break in continuous residence. Okay? A trip of 1 year or more in the last 5 years will break continuous residence, and you will need to reestablish residence before applying. Extended absences at any time after you became an LPR should be evaluated for possible abandonment of residence. Okay. So especially with trips, extended trips, you want to check in to make sure you're still eligible to apply. Okay. So for question number 1, provide the total amount of days you spent outside the U.S. during the last 5 years. USCIS will look at this number in particular to determine if you meet the physical presence requirements. If you have spent more than half of the last 5 years, or more than half of the last 3 years based on marriage, outside the U.S., so for 5 years that would be 913 days. If you spent more than that outside the U.S., you may fail to meet the physical presence requirements. Okay. For number 2, list the number of trips 24 hours or longer that you have taken outside the U.S. in the last 5 years. Okay. Number 3. For number 3, provide details on each trip. Start again with the most recent trip and work backwards. So you're going to start here with the most recent trip. For each trip, provide the dates of travel, countries visited, total days outside the U.S., and whether the trip lasted 6 months or more. If more space is needed, please attach an additional sheet of paper labeled with your name, a number, page number, part number, and item number. Entry and exit dates may be listed in your passport if you're looking for travel dates. Okay? If you've made frequent, regular trips across the border and cannot recall the dates, so if you made regular, frequent trips to Mexico to visit family or to Canada to visit family, you will need to attach a general explanation, okay, such as, for the last 5 years, I crossed the border to visit family members in Mexico about once a month. These visits usually lasted 2 to 3 days. You need to put at least approximates and attach an explanation for frequent trips like that, especially if you can't remember all the dates exactly. Part 10, information about your marital history. Here, provide information on your current marital status. If you are single and have never been married, then check question 1 and go directly to part 11. Check separated only if you are legally separated. Otherwise, you are still considered married, even if you haven't seen your spouse in many years. If you are currently married, provide information about your spouse, including if your spouse is a U.S. citizen. If your spouse is a U.S. citizen through naturalization, provide the date he or she became a citizen. If the spouse is not a U.S. citizen, provide his or her immigration status. If your spouse is undocumented, possible answers are NA or none. If your spouse has filed an I-130 For an undocumented spouse, possible answers are pending I-130 petition or approved I-130 petition. Here, however, it is best to seek out legal advice before sending in the N-400 with this information, okay, on an undocumented spouse. You want to double check with an immigration lawyer or an accredited BIA representative before sending in your application with this information on it. If your spouse was previously married, provide information about any and all previous spouses. If more space is needed, please attach an additional sheet of paper. USCIS will be looking at whether previous marriages were properly terminated before you or your spouse entered into a new marriage. If not, then your current marriage may be invalid. USCIS will also be looking for any evidence marriage fraud in cases where immigration status was obtained by marriage, through marriage. A brief marriage that led to permanent residence can raise red flags. Part 10, number 9, then asks about the information for your prior spouse, if any. Attach additional sheets of paper as needed. Please gather all documentation. You will need to send in a copy of your current marital status with your application. If applying based on marriage, it is also a good idea to submit evidence of termination of all prior marriages. Part 11, information about your children. Provide information about all children, including those who are alive, missing, or deceased, children who are now adults, current stepchildren, legally adopted children, and children born when you were not married. Provide information for each child living with you or elsewhere. Please make sure to include the child's relationship to you. For example, biological child, stepchild, legally adopted child. If the child lives with you, you can write lives with me or with me in the space provided for the address. If the child is missing or deceased, write this in the space provided for the address. If more space is needed, attach an additional sheet of paper labeled with your name, a number, page number, part number, and item number. Part 12, additional information about you. This section is extremely important. Be sure you understand each question and the importance of telling the truth. Also be sure you understand all the vocabulary in this section, as some officers will ask you to define words. Okay. Any criminal history will be revealed in the fingerprinting and background check, even if the events occurred when you were a minor or you were told that your record was expunged. Criminal or security concerns from your birth country can also be discovered in the background check. It is imperative that you tell the truth in this section. The questions in Part 12 are used to determine if you meet the good moral character requirement and if you are deportable from the U.S. Certain criminal convictions will not only make you ineligible for naturalization, but will also result in you being placed in removal proceedings. Some criminal convictions or acts will make you ineligible for naturalization for 5 years, while others will make you permanently ineligible. If you answer yes to any of the questions from 1 to 44 in this section, it is essential that you consult with an attorney or BIA accredited representative before filing this application. So if you say yes to any of these questions from 1 to 44, please check with an attorney or BIA accredited representative to make sure that it is safe for you to even apply. Okay, very important. Let's go over a few of these in more detail. Please pay extra close attention to the following questions. Making a false claim of citizenship in order to vote or receive benefits is a serious crime. Voting or registering to vote in any federal, state, or local election is also considered a serious crime, even if you believed you were eligible to vote. Many people have mistakenly claimed to be U.S. citizens and registered to vote when applying for a driver's license. This can be a serious issue and will need to be addressed with legal counsel, especially if this happened on or after September 30th, 1996, when a law making these people ineligible for citizenship came into effect. If you didn't file taxes because your income was too low, you will need to state how much money you earned for the year in question. Please explain if you were unemployed, receiving unemployment benefits, or receiving public benefits. Please seek all documentation during the year you did not file taxes. Attach a written explanation on why you were not required to file. Please include all correspondence with the IRS, especially if you have overdue taxes and are currently on a plan to pay them back. Again, it is best to seek legal counsel here if you need to check yes. Part 12, Question 9 asks about membership or involvement with any group in or outside of the U.S. Please provide the name of the group, the purpose, and the dates of membership. The information here is used to determine if you are ineligible for naturalization because of membership in the Communist Party, other totalitarian groups, or because the group advocates anarchy or overthrowing the government of the U.S. However, many organizations reflect positively on your character. Please list all associations, including civic, religious, social, and volunteer organizations. Membership in these types of organizations are positive and show you are an important member of your community. Part 12, questions 11 through 21, ask about terrorist activities and participation in acts of persecution, genocide, torture, and killings. This series of questions also asks about participation in prison camps, paramilitary groups, and guerrilla groups. If you became a legal permanent resident based on refugee or asylee status, it is important to have a copy of your immigration file to determine if any of the questions in this section apply. A yes answer in this section may or may not be cause for concern. However, do not file the N-400 without consulting a legal immigration representative, an immigration attorney, or a BIA accredited representative if you need to check yes to any of these questions. Part 12, questions 22 through 29, ask about criminal activity, including committing criminal offenses, even if not arrested, arrests, convictions, and sentences. If you have ever been stopped by the police for a traffic violation, had your fingerprints taken, been handcuffed, or been in a police car, you may have a criminal record, even if you just had to pay a fine. Differences in your criminal history background check and your N-400 application can cause a lot of complications and lead to questions regarding the good moral character requirement. Criminal law is complicated, so you may need to consult with a legal representative if you are unsure if you had any convictions. It is crucial to speak with legal counsel if you need to answer yes to any of the questions in this section. Question 30C asks if you have ever sold or smuggled controlled substances, illegal drugs, or narcotics. This question does not ask if you've been charged with or convicted of these activities, just whether you have engaged in this conduct. Any action involving the use or sale of illegal drugs has historically been a problem for those seeking an immigration benefit. A yes answer to this question requires you to consult with an immigration expert. Do not file the N-400 in this case. Okay? You need an immigration expert if this pertains to you. Question 30F. You may be asked if you entered the U.S. with your children if the children had permission to enter the U.S., or if you sent money to the children to enter the U.S. If you assisted your children to enter the U.S. without permission before you became an LPR, you may be deportable. Do not file the N-400 without first consulting with an immigration representative if the answer to this question is yes. Question 30H. You may be asked if you provide child support to the children who are mentioned in Part 11 who are not living with you. Failure to provide child support, unless there is a specific reason, may go against the good moral character requirement. Please seek documentation and counsel if the answer here is yes. Questions 33 through 36. If you've ever been removed, excluded, or deported from the U.S., or have ever been placed in or are currently placed in any proceedings, even if they were many years ago, please see a representative to go over your immigration file. Question 44. All males that currently live in or have lived in the U.S. between the ages of 18 and 26 must register for the Selective Service. This is also true for asylees, refugees, or undocumented immigrants. If you fail to register and are now aged 26 through 31, you must attach a statement explaining why you failed to register, along with a status information letter from the Selective Service. Part 12, questions 45 through 50, check your understanding and willingness to take the oath of allegiance and undertake certain obligations as a U.S. citizen. The oath of allegiance is a promise to be loyal to the U.S. and to give up loyalty to all other countries. Obligations in the oath include bearing arms on behalf of the U.S., willingness to perform non-combatant services in the U.S. Armed Forces, and willingness to perform work of national importance under civilian direction. If you answer no to any of these questions, you must include a written explanation. You can also provide additional evidence to support the answers. You can request a modified oath if you are not willing or unable to take the full oath because of religious training and beliefs, or from a conscientious objection based on a deeply held moral or ethical code. When requesting a modified oath, you need to attach a signed statement asking for the modification and explaining the reasons for the request. You may also include a statement from your religious organization or any other evidence to establish eligibility. The oath of allegiance may be waived if you are unable to understand or communicate understanding due to a physical disability or mental disability or impairment. If you must answer no to any of these questions, please see an accredited representative to ensure that you have the proper evidence or the proper waiver needed. Part 13, the applicant's statement, certification, and signature. Before signing Part 13, please note the penalty section in the instructions which reads, "If you knowingly and willfully falsify or conceal a material fact or submit a false document with this Form N-400, USCIS can deny your Form N-400 and may deny any other immigration benefit. In addition, you may face criminal prosecution and penalties provided by law." This section is asking if you understood the application yourself, see 1A, or if you needed an interpreter, someone that read the whole application and explained it to you in your first language. Question 2 also wants to know if someone assisted you in preparing the application, actually helped you write on the application and find your documents, things like that. The signature, you must sign and date this page. You are certifying that you have reviewed and authorized all information in the application. You are certifying that you understood all the information and all information provided by you is complete and true. Every application must contain the signature of the applicant. It cannot be photocopied, it can't be typed. A stamped or typewritten name in place of a signature is not acceptable. Okay? You may place an X mark instead of a signature if you are unable to write in any language. USCIS will reject your form if it is not signed. Part 14, Interpreters' Contact Information, Certification, and Signature. If you used anyone as an interpreter to read the instructions and questions on this application to you in a language in which you are fluent, the interpreter must fill out this section completely. The interpreter must sign and date the application. Part 15, Preparer Information. Items numbers 1 through 8. This section must contain the signature of the person who completed your application if it is someone other than you. If the same individual acted as your interpreter and your preparer, that person should complete both Part 14 and Part 15. Anyone who helped you complete this application must sign and date the application. Again, a stamped or typewritten name in place of a signature is not acceptable. Part 16, Signature at the interview. Again, signature at the interview. Do not complete this part on your own. The USCIS officer will ask you to complete this part at your interview. You will swear that everything is true and complete and sign in front of the USCIS officer. So do not sign this part when you send in your application. You'll do this at the interview. Part 17 is foreign titles. Again, do not complete this part until the USCIS officer instructs you to do so at your interview. Most people do not have a foreign hereditary title or order of nobility. If you do have a hereditary title or order of nobility, the law requires that you renounce this title as part of your oath ceremony to become a U.S. citizen. Part 18, Oath of Allegiance. And this part also, do not complete this part. The USCIS officer will ask you to complete this part at your interview. If USCIS approves your application, you must take this oath of allegiance to become a U.S. citizen. In limited cases, you can take a modified oath. I will put a link to more information on that below. Your signature on this application only indicates that you have no objections to taking the oath of allegiance. It does not mean that you have taken the oath or that you are naturalized. If USCIS approves your Form N-400 for naturalization, you must then attend an oath ceremony and take the oath of allegiance to the United States. And that's it for today. Please remember to ensure you are using the latest version of the N-400 application. Visit the USCIS website at uscis.gov. uscis.gov. Forms are free. You may order USCIS forms by calling the Forms Request line at 1-800-870-3676. And don't forget to save a copy of your completed application for your records and to review before your interview. Thank you all for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to get all the latest ESSA Group videos. See you soon.